Welcome to Everyday Psychology for a Better You. I'm your narrator, and throughout this audiobook, we'll explore how understanding your own mind can transform the way you live, think, and feel every single day. Introduction: The Hidden Power of Everyday Psychology. This is not a book about complex theories or academic jargon. It's about real psychology, simplified, practical, and deeply human. It's about the thoughts that shape your mornings, the emotions that drive your choices, and the habits that quietly define your life. But most of this happens beneath the surface, guided by invisible patterns. And when those patterns go unchecked, they quietly direct your life, your confidence, your motivation, your relationships, even your happiness. Every moment, your mind is working, interpreting, judging, reacting, deciding. The purpose of this audiobook is to bring those patterns to light and give you the tools to reshape them. Because when you understand why you think, feel, and act the way you do, you unlock the power to change it. Over the next 10 chapters, we shall journey through the psychology of everyday life, how habits create identity, how your thoughts are formed, how emotions can become your allies instead of enemies. This isn't about becoming someone else, and how small shifts in perception can lead to lasting transformation. It's about becoming more you, the clear-minded, confident, balanced version of yourself that already exists beneath the noise of daily thought. You may even begin to notice your thoughts differently, as if seeing them from the outside for the first time. So as you listen, stay open. You may hear ideas that challenge your current way of thinking. Let's start this journey into your mind, your habits, and your hidden potential. That sits the power of awareness. That sits where change begins. Chapter 1: The Mind Sits Operating System. And discover how to truly change how you think. Your mind is the most powerful tool you'll ever own. It shapes the way you see the world, the way you respond to challenges, and the way you define yourself. But here's the fascinating truth. Most people go their entire lives without ever really learning how it works. We learn how to drive cars, use computers, and manage finances. But no one teaches us how to operate our own minds. And yet it's the one system that controls everything else. The challenge is that once a belief or habit becomes automated, your brain stops questioning it. It treats it as truth. The mind loves efficiency, and to save energy, it relies on shortcuts, patterns of thinking that require less effort. Psychologists call this cognitive automation. It's why you can drive home from work without consciously remembering every turn. It's also why you react the same way to certain triggers, even when you know better. You've rehearsed those mental pathways so many times that they've become default settings. From childhood, your brain begins absorbing information like a sponge. Every interaction, every success, every disappointment becomes data stored in your system. If someone praised you for trying, you learned that effort matters. If someone criticized you for failing, you learned that mistakes are dangerous. These lessons may seem small, but your brain encodes them deeply. Over the years, they become automatic, shaping your sense of who you are and what you believe you can do. That's the foundation of your mental operating system. Think of your mind as an operating system, an intricate network of programs running quietly in the background. Some of these programs help you thrive: the habits that keep you disciplined, the beliefs that give you confidence, the values that anchor your decisions. But others, the old, unexamined ones, hold you back. They are the thoughts that whisper, "I'm not good enough," the fear that stops you from speaking up, or the constant self-criticism that drains your energy. These patterns don't appear out of nowhere. They are installed over time, written line by line through experience, repetition, and emotion. But here's the empowering part. Just because your mind runs on old programming doesn't mean you're stuck with it. The brain is not a fixed machine. It's a living, flexible organ capable of rewiring itself. This ability is called neuroplasticity. Every time you practice a new thought, make a new choice, or respond differently to an old problem, you're rewriting the code of your mind. You're literally changing the structure of your brain. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you've always believed that you're terrible at public speaking. That belief probably started with one uncomfortable experience. Maybe you stumbled through a presentation in school and felt embarrassed. Your brain recorded that moment as danger. Each time you avoided speaking in public afterward, your mind reinforced the belief, "I can't do this." Over time, that belief became automatic, part of your operating system. But what if you started to question it? What if you began exposing yourself to small speaking opportunities? A meeting comment here, a toast at a family gathering there. Each time you faced that discomfort, your brain would slowly reprogram the fear response. The old belief would lose power, replaced by a new one. "I can handle this." That's how reprogramming works. Not overnight, but through awareness and repetition. The first step in changing your mental software is awareness. You can't edit what you can't see. Begin by observing your thoughts without judgment. Notice what stories your mind tells you about who you are and what's possible. Pay attention to the patterns. Do you often assume the worst? Do you downplay your strengths? Do you interpret neutral events as personal failures? These mental habits reveal the code your brain is running. When you start paying attention, you might be surprised at how often your thoughts are automatic, even irrational. For instance, you might say to yourself, "I'm not a people person," without realizing that you're basing that belief on a handful of awkward interactions from years ago. Or you might tell yourself, "I'll never be successful because one project didn't go as planned." The mind exaggerates, generalizes, and distorts to make sense of experiences. This is how outdated programs continue to run, unchallenged and unquestioned. To interrupt that loop, practice one powerful question. Is this thought helping me or holding me back? It sounds simple, but it's transformative. Each time you ask it, you insert a pause, a moment of awareness between stimulus and response. That small pause is where change begins. It's where you get to choose a new reaction instead of defaulting to an old one. Over time, that choice rewires your brain to favor clarity over fear, logic over panic, and growth over avoidance. Another way to strengthen your mental system is through mindfulness. Mindfulness doesn't mean forcing your thoughts to stop. It means noticing them as they appear without labeling them as good or bad. It's like standing on a bridge and watching the river of your thoughts flow beneath you. You don't have to jump in, just observe the current. With practice, you begin to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer, and once you see that distinction, your thoughts lose their power to control you. Imagine your mind as a vast room filled with switches. Every thought you think flips one of them on or off. Positive thoughts activate circuits of confidence, curiosity, and motivation. Negative ones trigger stress, self-doubt, and paralysis. The more often a switch is flipped, the easier it becomes for your brain to find it again. That's why it's so easy to fall into familiar thought patterns, not because they're true, but because they're well practiced. Rewiring your mind isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about giving new circuits a chance to grow stronger than the old ones. Here's a practical exercise you can try right now. Take a moment to think of an area in your life where you feel stuck. Maybe it's procrastination, self-doubt, or fear of failure. Write down the thought that usually comes with that feeling. For example, I always mess things up. Now, underneath it, write an alternative thought that feels realistic but more empowering. Sometimes I make mistakes, but I'm capable of learning and improving. This isn't forced positivity. It's reframing. You're training your brain to see more than one possibility. If you repeat this process consistently, your mind begins to default toward the new belief instead of the old one. Think of someone you admire, a person who seems calm under pressure or confident in uncertainty. They aren't immune to fear or doubt. The difference is they've learned how to manage their mental software. They recognize when old patterns appear and choose how to respond instead of letting those patterns dictate their behavior. That's mastery, and it's something you can develop too. Many people assume that changing their mindset means suppressing negativity or forcing themselves to think happy thoughts all the time. That's not true. Real change isn't about denial. It's about understanding. When you know why you think a certain way, you gain control over it. Awareness turns reaction into response, and response is where growth happens. It's also important to recognize that your operating system doesn't work alone. Your environment, relationships, and even your body chemistry influence how it runs. Sleep, nutrition, and physical activity all affect your brain's ability to process and regulate thought. You can't reprogram your mind effectively if you're constantly drained or overwhelmed. So as you work on your mental patterns, remember that caring for your body supports the entire process. A rested brain is a flexible brain, one that's ready to learn and change. The beauty of psychology is that it gives you a map, not to escape your mind, but to understand it. Once you learn how it works, you can navigate it with confidence. You can choose which beliefs to keep, which to update, and which to let go. That's the essence of growth. Learning to operate your own mind with intention. Reprogramming your mental operating system is not about perfection. It's about progress, about noticing your patterns, questioning them, and choosing differently when you can. Some days you'll catch your mind falling back into old routines, and that's okay. Change takes patience. Each time you practice awareness, you strengthen your ability to think consciously rather than automatically. Over time, that conscious thinking becomes your new default. Your thoughts are not facts. They are signals. They can guide you or mislead you. But once you start paying attention, you hold the power. You become both the user and the programmer of your mental system. And that awareness, that ability to notice, question, and rewrite, is the beginning of personal freedom. You are not a product of your past programming. So as we move forward, remember this simple truth. You are the engineer of your future mind. Every moment of your life, your mind is generating thoughts, thousands of them, flowing one after another like waves on the shore. Most come and go unnoticed, while others linger, shaping your emotions and influencing your choices. But few people ever stop to ask why they think what they think. Where do these thoughts come from? Why do certain ones feel so powerful? And more importantly, can we learn to control them? Every thought is a line of code, and you have the ability to rewrite it. Chapter 2. The Science of Thought. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers. One person glances at you and looks away quickly. Instantly, your mind forms a thought. They don't like me, but that's not fact. It's interpretation. Another person might see the same glance and think, they must be shy. The difference isn't reality, it's perception. Your thoughts are shaped by how your brain interprets the world, not by the world itself. Psychologists often describe this process as the cognitive cycle, the constant loop between your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Here's how it works. A thought creates an emotion. That emotion drives a behavior, and that behavior reinforces the original thought. Let's break that down with an example. To understand thought, we have to start with something simple. Your brain is not just an organ, it's a prediction machine. It's constantly scanning the world, trying to interpret what's happening and what might happen next. Every sound, image, or sensation you experience gets filtered through your memories and beliefs, and then your brain makes a prediction about what it means. The result of that prediction, that interpretation, is your thought. The good news is that this loop can be interrupted. If you can change one part of the cycle, even slightly, you can change the rest. The easiest entry point is your thoughts. By learning to question and adjust your thinking patterns, you begin to alter your emotions and actions naturally. You have a thought. I'm not good enough for this job. That thought makes you feel anxious. Because of the anxiety, you avoid taking initiative at work or speaking up in meetings. As a result, you miss chances to show your value, and your lack of recognition reinforces your original thought. I really am not good enough. The cycle continues, quietly shaping your confidence and your future. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is built on this very idea. It teaches that our emotional suffering doesn't come from events themselves, but from how we interpret them. When you change your interpretation, you change your emotional experience. Now, it's important to realize that thoughts are not random. They follow patterns, mental habits that your brain builds through repetition. Every time you think a certain way, your brain strengthens a neural pathway associated with that thought. It's like carving a groove in a piece of wood. The more you trace it, the deeper it becomes, and the easier it is to follow next time. That's why negative thinking can become automatic. The brain, in its desire to conserve energy, follows the paths it knows best, even if those paths don't serve you. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine you text a friend, and they don't respond for hours. Your first thought might be, "They're ignoring me." That thought triggers feelings of rejection, and maybe even anger. But what if you replace it with a more balanced thought? They might just be busy right now. Instantly, your emotional state softens. The situation hasn't changed, but your interpretation has, and that changes everything. That's the science of thought at work. But just as the mind can learn negativity, it can also unlearn it. Neuroscientists call this process rewiring, the creation of new neural connections through intentional thought. It's proof that you are not stuck with the mindset you have today. The brain is plastic. It adapts. When you consciously choose new ways of thinking, you're literally shaping your brain into a different version of itself. For instance, when you catch yourself thinking, "I always fail at this," don't argue or deny it right away. Instead, say to yourself, "That's interesting. My mind is telling me this story again." That small shift, seeing a thought as a story instead of truth, gives you distance. You can then evaluate it logically. Is this thought based on evidence or emotion? Is it always true? The more you practice this, the weaker those old thought patterns become. Another simple yet powerful strategy is called thought replacement. Once you identify an unhelpful thought, replace it with one that's more accurate and empowering. Suppose your mind says, "I'm terrible at managing stress." You could reframe it to, "I'm learning better ways to manage stress every day." The goal isn't to fake positivity. It's to train your mind toward balance. You're not denying your struggle. You're choosing a thought that supports growth rather than defeat. One of the most effective ways to do this is through thought awareness. Begin noticing the thoughts that pop into your head during moments of stress or uncertainty. Don't try to stop them. Just observe. The act of observing your thoughts creates a gap, a brief space between stimulus and response. In that space, you gain choice. You're no longer being swept away by automatic thinking. You're watching it unfold. There's another layer to thought science that's equally important: the emotional chemistry behind it. Every thought triggers a cascade of chemical reactions in your brain. Positive thoughts release neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, which boost motivation and well-being. Negative thoughts, on the other hand, activate stress hormones like cortisol, preparing your body for fight or flight. That's why persistent worry or self-criticism doesn't just feel bad, it can physically wear you down. But once you understand this, you can use it to your advantage. You can deliberately cultivate thoughts that produce better chemistry. Gratitude, for instance, is not just a feel-good exercise. It has measurable effects on your brain. When you reflect on things you're thankful for, even small ones, you stimulate regions associated with joy and reduce stress signals. Over time, this shifts your baseline mood and increases resilience. Here's something most people don't realize. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. When you vividly imagine something, the same neural circuits activate as if it were actually happening. That's why mental rehearsal works so well for athletes, performers, and leaders. They visualize success so often that their brains become familiar with it, and when the real moment arrives, it feels natural. You can do the same with your own thoughts. If you repeatedly picture yourself calm, confident, and capable, your brain begins to build those pathways. Over time, your self-image adjusts to match. This is how thought becomes power, not through wishful thinking, but through consistent mental practice. Your thoughts are signals that instruct your brain and body how to feel, how to act, and even how to heal. By changing the signal, you change the system. Let's talk about self-talk, the ongoing inner conversation you have throughout the day. Most people are far harsher with themselves than they'd ever be with someone they love. They say things like, "I'm so stupid," or "I can't do anything right," often without realizing the damage those words do. Research shows that your subconscious mind takes language literally. When you repeatedly tell yourself you're incapable, your brain believes it and adjusts performance accordingly. The reverse is also true. Affirming language builds confidence and focus. This doesn't mean chanting empty slogans. It means communicating with yourself the way you would with a trusted friend. Instead of saying, "I failed," say, "That didn't work. What can I learn from it?" Compassionate self-talk is one of the most powerful psychological tools for growth because it aligns your mind with learning instead of judgment. The biggest misconception about thoughts is that they are outside your control. In reality, while you can't always stop a thought from appearing, you can always choose what to do with it. You can feed it, ignore it, replace it, or let it pass. The more consciously you make that choice, the more control you gain over your mental state. This is how mental discipline is built, not by fighting your thoughts, but by managing your relationship with them. Over time, these small shifts in thinking accumulate: a few seconds of awareness here, a reframe there, and gradually, your default thoughts begin to change. You'll notice that situations which once triggered anxiety now feel manageable, that challenges which once seemed impossible now appear as opportunities. That's not luck or magic, it's rewiring through repetition. You are teaching your brain a new way to think. The science of thought ultimately reveals something profound. Your mind is not your enemy. It's a system doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you, predict outcomes, and make sense of the world. The problem is that it learned from old data. But you can update it. You can feed it new information, new perspectives, and new interpretations until it becomes your greatest ally. So as you move forward, remember this truth. Every thought that crosses your mind is a suggestion, not a command. You get to decide which ones to accept and which ones to let go. You are not defined by your thoughts. You are defined by what you choose to believe about them. And once you begin making that choice deliberately, you shall discover something powerful. You said not just thinking anymore. You stir creating. Chapter 3. Belief, the invisible architect. From the moment you're born, your brain begins collecting data. Every experience becomes a brick in the foundation of your belief system. If someone smiled when you tried something new, you may have learned that effort brings reward. If someone criticized you when you failed, you may have learned that mistakes are dangerous. Over years, those moments blend into quiet rules your mind lives by, invisible sentences like "I'm not good enough," "people can't be trusted," or "I always have to be perfect to be loved." You might not consciously think these words, but they drive your choices, shape your confidence, and limit your potential. Every thought you think passes through a filter, a deep, unseen layer of the mind called belief. Beliefs are the invisible architects of your life. They design the structure of your reality, shaping how you interpret the world, what you expect from it, and what you believe you deserve. The way you think, feel, and act is not just influenced by your beliefs, it is directed by them. But here's the liberating truth. Beliefs are not facts. They are learned assumptions, and anything learned can be unlearned. Beliefs are powerful because the brain treats them as facts. Once a belief is formed, your mind starts searching for proof that it's true. This is called confirmation bias. If you believe you're unlucky, you'll notice every setback and ignore every small success. If you believe you're not smart enough, your brain will magnify every mistake as evidence. It's not that life is unfair. It's that your mind keeps highlighting what agrees with your belief and filters out what doesn't. Think of your beliefs as the lens of a camera. The lens doesn't change the world. It changes how you see it. If the lens is scratched, the picture looks distorted. You might spend years thinking life is dull or harsh, not realizing it's the lens, your belief, that's coloring everything. Once you recognize that, you can clean the lens and see clearly again. The same pattern plays out everywhere. In careers, relationships, health, and self-worth. Your beliefs act as silent instructions to your subconscious mind. If you believe something is possible, your mind searches for ways to achieve it. If you believe it's impossible, your mind stops looking before it even begins. Henry Ford said it best, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." Let's take a practical example. Imagine a person named Daniel who grew up hearing his parents argue about money. He often heard things like, "We'll never have enough," or "People with money are greedy." Without realizing it, Daniel internalized those messages. As an adult, he finds himself earning well but constantly anxious about finances. He saves obsessively, yet feels guilty when he spends on himself. His behavior makes sense once you see the belief underneath. Having money means I'm selfish. That single idea, formed years ago, quietly controls his emotional life. Psychology shows that beliefs are formed through three main forces: repetition, emotion, and authority. Repetition means that anything you hear or say often enough becomes familiar, and familiarity feels true. Emotion strengthens memory. Beliefs tied to strong feelings, whether joy or pain, stick deeper. And authority means that when information comes from someone you trust or fear, a parent, teacher, or leader, your brain absorbs it faster, bypassing logic. Understanding these forces helps you take back control. You can use the same principles to install new, empowering beliefs. Here's how. Start by identifying the beliefs that limit you. Listen to the language you use with yourself. Phrases like "I can't," I always or I never often reveal the hidden code of your belief system. For example, I can't talk to new people might point to a belief like, I'm not interesting. Once you've spotted a limiting belief, write it down. Then ask, where did this come from? Is it based on fact or just experience? Does it still serve me today? When you bring a belief into awareness, you weaken its control. A belief thrives in the dark, unquestioned. The moment you shine a light on it, it starts to lose its authority. Now create a replacement belief, something realistic but empowering. If your old belief was, I'm terrible at relationships, your new one might be, I'm learning how to connect better every day. It may feel unnatural at first. That's normal. The old program has been running for years, but the brain learns through repetition. Each time you reinforce the new belief, you strengthen new neural pathways until it becomes your default mindset. To make this process stick, add emotion. Don't just repeat new beliefs mechanically. Feel them, visualize them as already true. If you want to believe you're confident, picture yourself standing tall, speaking clearly, smiling easily. Your brain responds more to emotion than logic, so make it vivid. Another powerful tool is to collect evidence for your new beliefs. Each time you act in alignment with them, no matter how small, acknowledge it. If you're building a belief like I'm capable, notice when you solve a problem, finish a task, or help someone, write it down. This builds a feedback loop that tells your brain, see, it's true. Over time, the new belief starts to feel natural. You might be wondering, can one person really change deep beliefs after years of living with them? The answer is yes, and it happens all the time. Think about people who once believed they'd never recover from hardship, only to rebuild their lives stronger. Or those who thought they weren't creative until they started writing, painting, or building. Change begins the moment they stop accepting their beliefs as permanent and start testing new possibilities. Here sits a small practice you can use daily. Each morning, take 60 seconds to repeat one empowering statement that aligns with the life you want. Say it slowly, with meaning. For example, there's one more key idea. Beliefs don't just live in the mind, they live in the body. When you believe something strongly, your body reacts as if it's fact. Think of stage fright. If you believe the audience will judge you, your heart races, palms sweat, voice shakes. But when you believe the audience is supportive, your body relaxes. The mind and body are in constant conversation, each reinforcing the other. Changing a belief changes how you feel physically, not just mentally. I am capable of learning anything I need to grow. I am worthy of respect and love. I trust myself to handle whatever comes. It might feel awkward at first. That's okay. You're teaching your brain a new language, and like any language, it takes practice to become fluent. As you begin to challenge your old beliefs, you may face resistance. The mind likes familiarity. Even a painful belief feels safer than uncertainty. That's why personal growth can feel uncomfortable at first. You're stepping outside the mental boundaries your brain has spent years building. But discomfort is a sign of progress. It means you're rewriting the architecture. Beliefs also affect how you treat others. If you believe people are generally kind, you'll notice kindness more often. If you believe people are selfish, you'll find proof of that instead. In this way, your beliefs shape your world, not because they change reality, but because they change what you focus on. And focus is powerful. What you focus on expands. The truth is, you already have everything you need to change your beliefs. You have awareness, logic, and imagination. The same tools that built those beliefs in the first place. The difference now is that you're using them consciously. Beliefs are invisible, but their impact is not. They determine what you see, what you attempt, and what you achieve. They are the quiet architects, designing the structure of your reality. Once you realize you are the builder, not just the occupant, everything changes. So, start today. Question one belief that limits you. Replace it with one that empowers you. Reinforce it through repetition, emotion, and evidence. With time, the foundation of your mind will shift. You'll notice new thoughts forming, new confidence emerging, and new opportunities appearing. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Chapter 4. Emotion. The language of the mind. The moment you decide to believe in possibility, truly, deeply, consistently, your mind starts to build a life that reflects it. And that's when transformation begins. Every human being experiences emotions, waves of energy that color our lives, influence our decisions, and connect us to others. But few people truly understand them. Most of us grow up believing that emotions are things to control, hide, or suppress. We say don't cry, don't be angry, cheer up, as if feelings are problems to be fixed. Yet psychology teaches us something different. Emotions are not the problem. They are messages, signals from the mind that help us understand what's happening within us. Emotions are the language your mind uses when logic isn't enough. They tell you when something matters, when you're safe, when you're threatened, or when you need change. Without emotions, life would feel flat and meaningless. You wouldn't feel joy in success, connection in love, or growth in challenge. Emotions are what give color to experience, but to use them well, you must first learn to understand their language. Let's start with a simple truth. Emotions are not random. They arise from thoughts, perceptions, and needs. When you feel angry, it's often because a boundary has been crossed or something feels unfair. When you feel anxious, your mind is alerting you to uncertainty or potential loss of control. When you feel sad, your mind is signaling that you've lost something meaningful. Each emotion carries information. It's your job to interpret it. The problem is that most people react to emotions rather than listening to them. We judge them as good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. Happiness is welcome. Anger and fear are not. But emotions are neither good nor bad. They are data. They tell you what your current state of mind is trying to communicate. For example, fear can be a warning to protect yourself, or it can be a sign that you're stepping into growth. The emotion itself doesn't decide, your response does. Psychologists describe emotion as a three-part process: physiological, cognitive, and behavioral. Physiologically, emotions begin in the body, changes in heart rate, breathing, hormones, and muscle tension. Cognitively, your mind labels and interprets these sensations. I'm angry, I'm nervous, I'm excited. Behaviorally, you express or suppress the emotion through action, yelling, crying, smiling, or withdrawing. Understanding these three parts helps you respond more consciously. When you notice the physical signs early, like your shoulders tightening or breath shortening, you can intervene before the emotion takes over your behavior. One of the most effective techniques for managing emotion is called affect labeling. It simply means naming what you feel. Studies show that when you name an emotion, activity in the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, decreases, while activity in the prefrontal cortex, the thinking center, increases. In other words, by saying, "I feel angry," or "I feel anxious," you literally calm your brain's stress response. It's like turning the volume down on the emotional noise so you can think clearly again. Try this. The next time you feel overwhelmed, pause and say to yourself, "I'm noticing that I feel frustrated," or "I'm noticing fear rising." That small act of naming creates space between you and the feeling. You stop being consumed by the emotion and start observing it. From that space, you can ask the next important question: what is this emotion trying to tell me? It's also crucial to understand that emotions and thoughts constantly influence each other. A negative thought can trigger anxiety. Anxiety can create more negative thoughts. It becomes a loop. But you can interrupt that loop by changing either element. If you can't change the thought immediately, you can calm your body, slow breathing, relax your muscles, or step away from the trigger. Once your body feels safe, your mind starts to follow. That's why emotional regulation isn't about ignoring feelings. It's about restoring balance between the mind and body. You can think of emotions as weather patterns, temporary, ever-changing, and beyond complete control. You can't stop the rain, but you can carry an umbrella. You can't force the sun to shine, but you can open the curtains when it does. The goal isn't to control the weather, it's to learn how to move through it. When you stop fighting your emotions, they move faster and leave behind clarity. For instance, anger might be saying, "Something important to me is being violated." Anxiety might be saying, "I need more information or preparation." Sadness might be saying, "It's time to let go." When you treat emotions as messengers instead of enemies, you begin to navigate life with wisdom instead of reactivity. People often believe that emotional strength means staying calm at all times. But true strength is not suppression, it's awareness. A person who ignores anger doesn't become peaceful, they become numb. A person who denies sadness doesn't become happy, they become disconnected. Real peace comes from acknowledging your emotions, understanding them, and choosing how to respond instead of being ruled by them. Situation: missed a deadline. Here sits a practical exercise for 1 week. Whenever you experience a strong emotion, write it down. Note what happened, what you felt, and how you responded. For example, reaction: avoided checking emails. Thought: I am so irresponsible. Emotion: frustration and guilt. Then, look back and ask yourself, what was this emotion trying to tell me? Maybe frustration was asking for better time management, or guilt was pushing you toward responsibility. You'll start to see patterns, emotions repeating around certain needs. Once you identify the need, you can address it directly instead of getting lost in the feeling. Another important insight: emotions are contagious. Humans have mirror neurons that make us absorb the moods of those around us. If you spend time with anxious or angry people, you'll often start feeling the same way without realizing why. The opposite is also true. Calmness spreads. By managing your emotions, you not only improve your own life, but also influence those around you. This is especially relevant in relationships. Many conflicts don't come from what's said, but from unspoken emotions beneath the surface. You might say, "I'm fine," while your tone and body language say otherwise. Learning to express emotions clearly, without blame, builds connection. Try saying, "I feel hurt when I'm interrupted," instead of "you never listen." The first opens dialogue. The second invites defense. Communication rooted in emotional awareness transforms relationships. However, emotions can become distorted when past experiences shape how you interpret the present. For example, someone who grew up in an unpredictable household might feel anxious even in safe environments, because their brain learned that calm moments often precede chaos. This is known as emotional conditioning. The good news is that awareness and repetition can retrain your emotional responses. Every time you respond calmly to a situation that once triggered fear, you teach your brain that safety is possible. Over time, the emotional intensity fades. It's also worth noting that emotions evolved for survival. Fear keeps you alert to danger. Anger motivates you to defend boundaries. Sadness helps you process loss and seek comfort. Even guilt has a function. It nudges you to repair harm and align with your values. When you understand the purpose behind each emotion, you stop seeing them as obstacles and start seeing them as allies. Another key to emotional health is acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean liking an emotion. It means allowing it to exist without resistance. When you tell yourself, "I shouldn't feel this way," you add shame to the emotion, doubling your suffering. But when you say, "It's okay to feel this," the emotion starts to lose its grip. Paradoxically, the more you accept emotions, the faster they pass. Emotions also play a vital role in decision-making. Neuroscience has shown that people with brain injuries affecting emotion struggle to make even simple choices. Logic alone can't guide you. Emotion gives value and meaning to your options. So rather than seeing emotions as irrational, understand that they are essential to reasoning. The key is to integrate emotion and logic, letting them work together instead of competing. To build emotional intelligence, practice 3 habits: awareness, regulation, and empathy. Awareness means noticing what you feel and why. Regulation means choosing healthy ways to express and release emotion, like talking, journaling, or physical movement. Empathy means recognizing and respecting emotions in others. When you combine these, you gain not only control but also compassion. Over time, your emotional landscape changes. You'll start noticing that you recover faster from disappointment, stay calm in arguments, and feel more stable overall. This doesn't mean you stop feeling deeply. It means you learn to navigate emotions with understanding instead of fear. Every emotion is trying to tell you something about your needs, your values, and your truth. When you learn to listen, you no longer get lost in the noise of feeling. You hear the message underneath, and in that moment of clarity, emotion stops being your master and becomes your greatest teacher. Remember, emotions are not weaknesses. They are wisdom in motion. They connect you to what's real, to what matters, and to who you are. When you stop fighting your emotions and start listening to them, they transform from storms into guides. Chapter 5. The Habit Loop. If thoughts shape your emotions, and emotions shape your actions, then habits are the bridge that turns those actions into who you become. Habits are the silent architecture of your daily life. They determine how you spend your mornings, how you handle stress, how you pursue goals, and ultimately what kind of person you become over time. Most people believe success or failure is built on motivation or discipline, but in truth, it's built on habits, small, repeated behaviors that run automatically beneath your awareness. Psychologists estimate that nearly 90% of your daily actions are habitual. You brush your teeth the same way, take the same route to work, check your phone at the same moments, think the same thoughts about yourself, again and again. Your brain does this not out of laziness, but efficiency. Habits save mental energy by turning repeated actions into automatic routines. To understand how habits form, let's look at the habit loop, a concept popularized by behavioral psychologist Charles Duhigg. The loop has 3 stages: the cue, the routine, and the reward. Once you understand these parts, you can reshape almost any habit in your life. A cue is the trigger, the event that starts the behavior. It can be external, like the sound of your alarm, or internal, like feeling stressed or bored. The routine is the behavior itself: brushing your teeth, checking your phone, reaching for a snack. The reward is what your brain gets from it: relief, pleasure, comfort, or a sense of completion. The brain doesn't care whether the habit is good or bad. It only cares that it satisfies a craving. Over time, your brain learns to anticipate the reward the moment the cue appears, and the loop strengthens. The key to breaking bad habits or building new ones is not willpower. It's awareness and design. You can't erase a habit completely, but you can rewrite it by changing one element of the loop, usually the routine. For example, imagine every time you feel bored, you reach for your phone and start scrolling. The cue is boredom, the routine is scrolling, and the reward is a quick hit of novelty and distraction. The next time boredom appears, your brain will automatically crave that same reward, even if you consciously want to stop wasting time. The habit loop keeps running. Cue, routine, reward, on repeat. Let's take an example. Suppose your cue is stress, and your current routine is eating junk food. The reward is comfort or relaxation. You can't always eliminate stress, and you still need comfort. But you can change the routine. Next time you feel stressed, take a 5-minute walk, stretch, or breathe deeply. You still get the reward of relaxation, but through a healthier routine. Repeat this enough times, and your brain starts connecting stress with movement instead of food. That's how new habits form. Repetition paired with reward. The key is consistency, not intensity. Small actions done regularly change the brain more than big efforts done rarely. This is because of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new connections. Each time you repeat a behavior, you strengthen the neural pathway associated with it, like carving a groove deeper into the mind. The more you practice, the easier the behavior becomes, until it no longer feels like effort. This principle also works for positive habits. Let's say you want to build a habit of reading every evening. Choose a clear cue, perhaps after dinner or right before bed. Keep the book visible and accessible. Make the reward immediate and satisfying, maybe a few minutes of calm, or marking progress in a journal. Over time, your brain learns that reading leads to relaxation, and the habit becomes natural. Another useful concept is the 2-minute rule. When starting a new habit, make it so easy that it takes less than 2 minutes to begin. If you want to start journaling, write 1 sentence. If you want to meditate, breathe deeply for 2 minutes. The goal is not to do a lot, it's to start. Starting creates momentum, and momentum keeps habits alive. Once you've started, it's easier to continue. Psychologists call this the principle of activation energy, the energy required to start a task. The higher the barrier, the less likely you are to do it. Lowering that barrier tricks your brain into motion. Once the loop starts, the brain's reward system takes over, and motivation begins to build naturally. Here's the secret. Habits are not about self-control, they're about environment. You will always behave in alignment with your surroundings. If you keep snacks on your desk, you'll eat them. If your phone is beside your bed, you'll check it. But if you design your environment to support your goals, success becomes automatic. Want to exercise more? Put your workout clothes where you'll see them. Want to drink more water? Keep a bottle within reach. Want to read more? Place a book on your pillow. Change the environment, and the behavior follows. Breaking habits requires similar awareness. Identify the cue that triggers your unwanted behavior. Is it a time of day? A place? An emotion? Once you identify the cue, you can either avoid it, replace the routine, or delay it long enough for the craving to pass. Cravings are like waves, strong at first but fading quickly. If you can delay the behavior for even 10 minutes, the urge often disappears. It's also important to forgive yourself during this process. Habit change is not a straight line. You will slip, repeat, and learn. Every time you fail and try again, you're strengthening your brain's resilience. Self-criticism creates shame, which reinforces old patterns. Compassion creates curiosity, which encourages new ones. When you make mistakes, say to yourself, "That's okay, I'm learning." That mindset keeps you moving forward. You can also use the power of habit stacking. Instead of trying to create a new habit from scratch, attach it to an existing one. For instance, if you already drink coffee every morning, use that moment to practice gratitude or review your daily goals. The old habit becomes the cue for the new one. This technique leverages your brain's existing wiring to make new behaviors easier to adopt. Each small habit is a vote for the person you want to become. Every time you act kindly, you cast a vote for being compassionate. Every time you exercise, you cast a vote for being healthy. Every time you focus, instead of procrastinating, you cast a vote for being disciplined. No single vote defines you, but together they form your identity. Let's talk about identity. Long-term habits don't just depend on what you do, they depend on who you believe you are. Behavior that conflicts with your identity rarely lasts. If you tell yourself, "I'm trying to quit smoking," your brain still identifies you as a smoker. But if you say, "I'm not a smoker anymore," the identity begins to shift. You act according to who you believe you are. The goal then is not to build habits that change what you do, but to build habits that change what you believe about yourself. To maintain motivation, track your progress. Habits grow stronger when you can see your improvement. Use a simple checklist, a journal or a calendar, where you mark each day you follow through. This visual proof releases dopamine, which reinforces the habit loop. The brain loves progress. It doesn't need perfection, just evidence of consistency. Remember, every habit, good or bad, serves a purpose. Even unhealthy habits meet a need: comfort, control, or distraction. Instead of judging them, ask what they're trying to do for you. Then find a healthier way to meet that need. If you smoke to relax, learn to breathe deeply. If you scroll your phone for connection, call a friend. By honoring the need without clinging to the habit, you create sustainable change. In the end, habits are the invisible blueprint of your life. They determine not only your results, but your self-image. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. Goals set direction, but habits build reality. So start small, replace judgment with curiosity. Design your environment, anchor new behaviors to old ones. Focus on identity, not outcome. With time, these tiny shifts compound into transformation. When you understand the habit loop, cue, routine, reward, you hold the key to rewriting any pattern in your life. Your habits are not fate. They are choices repeated until they become automatic. And when you choose them with intention, they become the stepping stones to the better you you've always wanted to become. Chapter 6. The Psychology of Motivation. Every person wants to feel motivated. That spark that gets you moving, keeps you focused, and pushes you to finish what you start. Yet motivation often feels mysterious. Some days you wake up ready to take on the world. Other days, even simple tasks feel impossible. You might assume motivation is something you either have or don't, but that's not true. Psychology shows that motivation is not a gift, it's a process. It can be understood, built, and sustained with the right mindset and environment. Motivation begins with one simple principle. It doesn't come first, it follows action. Psychologists call this the activation principle, the idea that the energy to start something is always greater than the energy to continue it. Think of pushing a car. It's hardest at the beginning, but once it's rolling, it takes much less effort to keep it moving. The same is true for motivation. Waiting for it to appear before you act is like waiting for a fire to start before you strike the match. Most people wait to feel motivated before starting. They say, "I'll write when I'm inspired," or "I'll exercise when I feel ready." But that's not how the mind works. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates motivation. When you start moving, even in a small way, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical of pleasure and progress. That dopamine doesn't just make you feel good, it makes you want to keep going. This is why starting is often the hardest part. But once you do, your energy begins to build on itself. Extrinsic motivation comes from outside. Rewards, recognition, money, praise, or avoiding punishment. It works well in the short term, but it fades quickly. If you're exercising only to lose weight for a vacation, what happens when the vacation ends? The drive disappears. It's also helpful to understand the two types of motivation that drive human behavior: extrinsic and intrinsic. So, how do you begin when you don't feel like it? Start small, really small. This is known as the 2-minute rule. Commit to just 2 minutes of effort. Read 1 page, do 1 push-up, write 1 sentence. The brain doesn't resist small steps, and once you've begun, momentum naturally takes over. Most people don't have a motivation problem. They have a starting problem. Psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan describe motivation using the self-determination theory, which identifies 3 psychological needs that sustain motivation: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Intrinsic motivation, on the other hand, comes from within. It's driven by curiosity, growth, purpose, and meaning. It's the joy of learning, the satisfaction of progress, or the pride in mastery. Intrinsic motivation lasts because it aligns with your values and identity. When you do something because it matters to you, not because you have to, your energy renews itself. To tap into intrinsic motivation, connect your goals to something personally meaningful. Don't just ask, "What do I want to do?" Ask, "Why does it matter?" For example, instead of saying, "I want to exercise," say, "I want to have more energy to play with my kids." Instead of "I need to save money," try, "I want to feel secure and free to make my own choices." Meaning fuels consistency far more than obligation. Competence is the belief that you can improve and master what you're doing. Autonomy means feeling in control of your actions, the sense that you're choosing your path, not being forced into it. Relatedness is the feeling of connection, that your effort matters to others or contributes to something larger. When these 3 needs are met, motivation flourishes. When they're missing, it fades. This is why micromanagement kills motivation in workplaces. It strips autonomy. It's why endless criticism kills motivation in students. It damages competence. And it's why isolation kills motivation in life. It removes connection to sustain motivation. Build environments that feed these needs. Give yourself freedom, celebrate progress, and surround yourself with people who share your goals. You can use this to your advantage by breaking large goals into smaller milestones. Big goals often overwhelm because the brain can't measure progress until the end. Small goals create frequent wins, frequent dopamine hits, which keep motivation alive. Instead of saying, "I'll write a book," say, "I'll write 1 page a day." Instead of, "I'll get in shape," say, "I'll walk for 10 minutes." Each small win builds confidence, and confidence feeds motivation. Another powerful psychological factor in motivation is progress. Research shows that the most motivating moment in any goal is not the finish line. It's the feeling of progress along the way. The human brain is wired to crave forward motion. Each small win triggers dopamine, reinforcing the behavior and creating a loop of success. This is why tracking your progress, no matter how small, is so important. Checking off a task, marking a calendar, or writing down what you accomplished gives your brain tangible proof of growth. That visible progress keeps you moving forward. It's also important to understand how your environment influences motivation. Humans are highly responsive to cues. A cluttered space, constant distractions, or negative surroundings drain energy before you even start. Conversely, a space designed for focus, clean, quiet, and purpose-driven, naturally promotes action. You can motivate yourself simply by removing friction. If you want to eat healthier, keep fruit on the counter instead of snacks. If you want to write more, leave your notebook open on your desk. You don't need more discipline, you need fewer obstacles. Still, even with the right mindset, motivation naturally fluctuates. You won't always feel inspired, and that's okay. The secret is not to rely on constant high motivation, but to build systems that keep you going when motivation dips. Systems are routines and habits that operate automatically, like brushing your teeth. When motivation is high, systems create progress. When motivation is low, systems create stability. They keep you moving forward even when you don't feel like it. Another insight from psychology is that motivation depends on your expectation of success. If you believe your effort will pay off, you're more likely to act. If you believe it won't, you stop before you start. This expectation is shaped by your mindset. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset shows that people who believe their abilities can improve through effort are far more persistent than those who see skills as fixed. A growth mindset turns failure into feedback, while a fixed mindset turns it into defeat. When you view effort as a path to mastery rather than a sign of weakness, your motivation becomes resilient. Another common motivation trap is perfectionism. Many people lose motivation because they expect every effort to be flawless. They delay action, fearing mistakes, and end up doing nothing. But psychology shows that imperfect action beats perfect inaction every time. Progress, not perfection, builds confidence. Each attempt teaches your brain that trying is safe, that learning is possible. Over time, this rewires your relationship with failure. You stop seeing mistakes as proof you can't and start seeing them as evidence you're growing. There's also a fascinating link between emotion and motivation. Positive emotions, like joy, gratitude, and curiosity, expand your mental capacity, making it easier to stay engaged. Negative emotions like fear or shame narrow your focus, causing avoidance. This means you can increase motivation by cultivating positive emotion intentionally. Celebrate your small wins. Reflect on what you've already achieved. Practice gratitude for your progress. These small emotional boosts recharge your drive far more effectively than harsh self-discipline. Social influence also plays a major role. Motivation is contagious. When you surround yourself with people who are growing, you naturally align with their energy. This is called social modeling. Your brain mirrors the behavior and attitudes of those around you. That's why accountability works, not because others force you to act, but because shared effort reinforces belief. Here sits a simple formula for lasting motivation. And finally, understand that motivation is cyclical, not constant. You'll have high-energy days and low-energy ones. Don't expect endless fire. Motivation is like the tide. It rises, it falls, and it rises again. The goal isn't to stay on fire all the time. It's to build habits and systems that keep you moving when the fire dims. Discipline sustains what motivation starts. Start small. Focus on progress. Connect to meaning. Design your environment. Build systems. Celebrate wins. When you apply these principles, motivation stops being something you chase and becomes something you generate. In the end, motivation is not about hype or willpower. It's about understanding how your mind works. The more you act, the more motivated you feel, the more progress you see, the more belief you build, and the more you align your actions with your values, the more unstoppable you become. Motivation isn't something you wait for, it's something you create, one small, intentional action at a time. Cognitive biases are systematic errors in thinking, invisible distortions that twist how we interpret reality. They're not flaws in your character, they're built-in features of the human brain. They evolved to help our ancestors survive by making quick judgments. In the wild, hesitation could mean danger, so the brain learned to jump to conclusions. That's useful when deciding whether to run from a predator, but less helpful when navigating modern life. Today, these same shortcuts can lead to poor decisions, misunderstandings, and unnecessary stress. The human mind is brilliant. It can reason, imagine, plan, and create. Yet for all its intelligence, it's also surprisingly unreliable. We like to believe our thoughts are logical and our decisions are rational. But psychology reveals a humbling truth. Much of what we think, feel, and decide is influenced by mental shortcuts called cognitive biases. Chapter 7: Cognitive Bias. The Mindset's Hidden Traps. The first step toward freeing yourself from these hidden traps is awareness. You can't avoid bias completely, but once you recognize it, you can question it, and that awareness can transform how you see the world. Let's explore some of the most common and powerful biases that shape our everyday thinking. 1. Confirmation bias. The comfort of being right. To escape this trap, you must practice intellectual humility, the willingness to be wrong. Challenge yourself by asking, "What if I'm mistaken?" or "What would prove the opposite?" Seek out perspectives that disagree with yours. Truth doesn't fear questioning, only ego does. For example, if you believe you're unlucky, you'll notice every setback as proof and overlook moments when things go well. If you believe someone dislikes you, you'll interpret their neutral actions as coldness. In relationships, politics, and even self-image, confirmation bias blinds us to truth and locks us inside echo chambers. One of the strongest mental traps is confirmation bias, the tendency to seek, interpret, and remember information that supports what you already believe. It feels good to be right, so your brain constantly searches for evidence that confirms your views and ignores or dismisses anything that contradicts them. Imagine you receive 10 positive comments and 1 negative one. Which one do you replay in your head? That's negativity bias. It makes your brain feel like the world is worse than it is, feeding anxiety and self-doubt. 2. Negativity bias, the brain SIP's alarm system. Your mind is wired to notice threats more than opportunities. This is the negativity bias. From an evolutionary standpoint, it kept our ancestors alive. Remembering danger was more important than remembering pleasure. But in modern life, it means you often dwell on criticism and forget compliments, focus on mistakes instead of progress, and worry about problems that never happen. 3. Anchoring bias, the first impression trap. You can counter this bias by consciously practicing gratitude and perspective. At the end of each day, recall 3 things that went well, no matter how small. This retrains your mind to notice the positive, balancing your internal alarm system. Over time, positivity becomes a habit, not an accident. The first piece of information you receive about something tends to anchor your perception, even if it's irrelevant. This is called anchoring bias. For instance, if you're shopping for a jacket and the first one you see costs $200, The next one at 100 feels cheap, even if it's still overpriced. Similarly, if your first impression of a person is negative, it can cloud every future interaction, no matter how kind they become. To avoid anchoring, pause before making judgments. Ask, am I comparing this to the first thing I saw or to objective reality? Reset your reference point. The first number, impression or story, is just that. First, not necessarily accurate. 4. Availability heuristic, the memory illusion. 5. The halo effect, when one trait defines all. This bias makes you overestimate the importance of information that's easy to recall. If you recently heard about a plane crash, your brain might think flying is dangerous, even though statistically it's far safer than driving. Your mind assumes that because something comes easily to mind, it must be common or likely. But memory is not reality. The news and social media feed this bias constantly, showing dramatic stories that stick in your mind. To counter it, remember, vivid doesn't mean frequent, and memorable doesn't mean meaningful. Before jumping to conclusions, check the facts. The halo effect is the tendency to let one positive trait shape your entire impression of someone. If a person is attractive or confident, you might automatically assume they're intelligent, kind, or trustworthy, even without evidence. The opposite is true too. The horn effect makes one negative trait overshadow everything else. If someone is late once, you might label them unreliable, ignoring other positive qualities. Awareness helps here. When judging others or yourself, ask, am I basing this opinion on facts or on first impressions? People are complex. One quality never tells the whole story. 6. The Dunning-Kruger effect, the illusion of knowledge. Sometimes we think we know more than we do. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect, the bias where people with limited knowledge overestimate their competence, while experts often underestimate theirs. The less you know, the more certain you feel. The more you learn, the more aware you become of what you don't know. This bias affects everyone. The solution is curiosity. Instead of defending what you think you know, keep asking questions. True confidence comes not from being certain, but from being open to learning. 7. The self-serving bias, protecting the ego. When things go well, we credit ourselves. I succeeded because I'm skilled. When they go poorly, we blame external factors. I failed because of bad luck or other people. This is the self-serving bias, and it protects your self-esteem, but it also blocks growth. The antidote is accountability. When something goes wrong, ask, what part of this is within my control? Responsibility doesn't mean blame, it means power. When you own your role, you regain the ability to change it. 8. The sunk cost fallacy, stuck because you started. To break this trap, shift your focus from the past to the future. Ask, if I weren't already involved, would I start this today? If the answer is no, it's time to let go. This bias keeps you investing time, money, or effort in something just because you've already invested in it. Even when it's no longer serving you, people stay in jobs they hate, relationships that hurt, or projects that drain them because they've already spent so much. The mind hates the idea of waste, but continuing for the wrong reason wastes even more. 9. Groupthink, the pressure to conform. Humans crave belonging, and that need can cloud judgment. In groups, people often suppress their true opinions to avoid conflict. This is groupthink. It makes teams choose comfort over clarity, agreement over truth. History is full of examples where poor decisions were made simply because no one wanted to challenge the majority. To counter groupthink, value dissent. Encourage different opinions. In your own life, remember that thinking differently doesn't make you difficult, it makes you free. 10. The status quo bias, fear of change. Finally, one of the most powerful biases is the tendency to prefer things as they are. Change feels risky, so your brain convinces you that staying the same is safer. But comfort isn't always safety. Sometimes it's a slow kind of decay. Growth always begins with discomfort. When you notice yourself resisting change, ask, am I protecting peace or avoiding progress? Often, the comfort zone isn't where you're meant to stay, it's where you gather strength before moving forward. The next time you catch yourself making a quick judgment, pause. Ask, is this fact or assumption, emotion or evidence? That single pause is a moment of power, a crack in the automatic loop of bias. Cognitive biases are not signs of weakness. They're the natural result of an efficient brain trying to manage an overwhelming world. The goal isn't to eliminate them. That's impossible. The goal is to see through them. Awareness gives you distance, and distance gives you choice. When you learn to think beyond your shortcuts, the world becomes clearer. Decisions become wiser. Relationships become fairer. And most importantly, your mind becomes freer. Not from bias entirely, but from being ruled by it. Imagine two people standing at the edge of a mountain, looking at the same landscape. One sees beauty, opportunity, and endless horizons. The other sees danger, difficulty, and exhaustion. The mountain hasn't changed, only the perspective has. That's the quiet truth psychology teaches us. Reality is filtered through perception. The way you see the world determines how you experience it. Because true intelligence is not about always being right. It's about being willing to question how your mind decides what's right. Chapter 8. The Power of Perspective. Perspective is not about denying reality. It's about interpreting it. You can't always control what happens, but you can control what it means to you. And that meaning changes everything. Your emotions, your motivation, your relationships, your peace. Learning to master perspective is one of the most powerful psychological tools for a better life. Your mind builds reality from a mix of memories, beliefs, and expectations. Every past experience becomes a lens. If you've been hurt, you see risk. If you've been loved, you see possibility. Your brain constantly compares the present moment to what it already knows. That's why two people can go through the same situation and walk away with completely different stories about what happened. To understand this, let's begin with a core principle. You don't see the world as it is, you see it as you are. Psychologists call this cognitive framing, the mental structure that shapes how we interpret events. Frames can empower or imprison us. For example, failure can be framed as proof of inadequacy or as evidence of effort. A breakup can be framed as rejection or as redirection. The event doesn't change. The meaning you attach to it does. A shift in perspective doesn't require changing the situation. It requires changing your focus. You can't always choose the cards life deals, but you can choose how to play them. That's the essence of reframing, one of psychology's simplest yet most transformative tools. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, late for a meeting. Your first reaction might be frustration. Why is this happening to me? This day is ruined. Your heart rate rises, your muscles tighten, and you arrive exhausted. But what if you reframe the moment? What if you think, I can't control traffic, but I can use this time to breathe, think, or listen to something inspiring? Instantly, stress begins to fade. The external reality is identical, but the inner experience is different. So how can you cultivate a healthier, more empowering perspective. This principle extends far beyond traffic jams. It applies to failure, conflict, uncertainty, and change. Life rarely goes exactly as planned, but how you interpret it determines whether you grow or suffer. People who thrive are not those who avoid difficulty. They are those who learn to see differently. Here's something remarkable. Your perspective doesn't just influence your emotions, it influences your brain's biology. Research shows that when you focus on possibility rather than threat, your brain activates regions associated with creativity, learning, and problem-solving. Conversely, when you focus on danger or loss, your brain shifts into survival mode, narrowing your vision and limiting your thinking. In other words, perspective literally changes what your brain is capable of. 1. Practice cognitive reframing daily. Whenever something goes wrong, ask yourself, is there another way to look at this? This doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means widening your lens. If someone criticizes you, instead of "they hate me," think, "they kept showing me how I can improve." If you make a mistake at work, instead of saying "I failed," try, "I discovered what doesn't yet work." That's its progress. This simple shift doesn't erase difficulty, but it gives it meaning, and meaning gives you strength. 2. Separate facts from interpretation. Most of the time, it's not the event that hurts you, it's the story you tell about it. For example, the fact might be, "I didn't get the promotion." The interpretation might be, "I am not good enough." But those two are not the same. The first is neutral, the second is emotional. By separating facts from interpretation, you regain objectivity. Then you can respond rationally instead of reacting impulsively. 3. Use the 10-year rule. 4. Adopt a growth lens. When faced with a stressful situation, ask yourself, will this matter in 10 years? Most of the time, the answer is no. Perspective shrinks problems to their actual size. What feels overwhelming today often becomes insignificant in the long run. This mental exercise instantly cools emotional heat and brings clarity. A growth perspective sees challenges as teachers, not enemies. When you face failure, you can view it as the end or as feedback. When you face rejection, you can see it as proof of inadequacy or as guidance toward a better fit. This perspective transforms obstacles into opportunities. Every difficulty becomes data, not doom. The most successful and fulfilled people are not those with the easiest lives, but those who consistently ask, "What can this teach me?" 5. Change "why me" to "what now." 6. Use distance for clarity. "Why me" keeps you trapped in victimhood. It seeks blame. "What now" moves you forward. It seeks solutions. Both questions arise from the same pain, but one drains you while the other empowers you. The way you frame your struggles determines whether they define you or refine you. When emotions are high, perspective narrows. Everything feels urgent, personal, and overwhelming. Psychologists call this emotional reasoning, when feelings replace facts. The best way to regain balance is to create distance. Try viewing your situation as if you were advising a friend. What would you tell them? Distance reduces emotional intensity and activates logical thinking. You'll often find that what felt impossible suddenly looks manageable. 7. Practice gratitude as a perspective tool. Gratitude shifts focus from what's missing to what's present. It doesn't erase pain, but it balances it with awareness of what's still good. When you train your brain to notice blessings, even small ones, your perspective becomes more resilient. You start seeing life not as something that happens to you, but something that happens for you. Broaden your context. Sometimes, gaining perspective simply means zooming out. Imagine looking at your life from above, like a map. The issue that feels huge now might be just one part of a much larger journey. When you broaden your context, pain becomes temporary, and success becomes part of a longer rhythm. You stop obsessing over single moments and start appreciating the full picture. 9. Choose curiosity over judgment. Judgment closes your mind. Curiosity opens it. When things don't make sense, instead of labeling them as bad or wrong, ask questions. What's really going on here? What am I not seeing? Curiosity transforms confusion into discovery. It's a mindset that turns fear into learning and frustration into growth. 10. Remember, perspective is a choice. When you shift perspective, pain can become purpose, failure can become foundation, and chaos can become clarity. That doesn't mean denying the hard parts of life. It means refusing to let them be the only parts you see. It may not feel like it, but you can choose your perspective in every moment. You can choose to see an ending as a loss or a beginning. You can choose to see change as threat or evolution. You can choose to see difficulty as punishment or preparation. That choice determines not only your peace, but your path forward. Perspective doesn't change the external world, but it changes your world. It changes how you interpret experiences, how you treat yourself, and how you connect with others. The greatest freedom you have is not freedom from challenge, but freedom in how you see it. Because in the end, your perspective is not just how you look at the world, it's how you build it. You can train your mind to find light in the darkest moments, lessons in the losses, and strength in the struggle. Psychology offers us a simple truth. How you relate to others begins with how you relate to yourself. Your patterns in relationships, your trust, fears, communication style, even your ability to love, are often reflections of your inner world. To build stronger relationships, you must first understand the psychology beneath them. Every person you meet changes you a little. Every conversation, every connection, even the brief ones, shapes how you see yourself and the world. Human beings are social creatures, wired for connection. From birth, our survival and emotional well-being depend on our relationships. Yet for something so essential, we often struggle to understand how relationships really work, why we connect with some people instantly, clash with others, and sometimes lose touch with those we love the most. Chapter 9. The Psychology of Relationships. Attachment. The blueprint of connection. If you were nurtured with consistency and care, you likely developed a secure attachment. You trust that people will be there for you, you communicate openly, and you handle conflict with calmness. The foundation of your relationship patterns begins early, in childhood. Psychologists call this attachment theory. The way your caregivers responded to your needs as a child shaped the way you connect with others as an adult. If love was inconsistent or absent, you might have developed an avoidant attachment, valuing independence so much that closeness feels suffocating. You might pull away when things get too intimate, fearing vulnerability. If care was unpredictable, you may have formed an anxious attachment, craving closeness, but fearing rejection. You may find yourself overthinking texts, reading too much into silence, or feeling uneasy when someone seems distant. None of these patterns are destiny. They are starting points. Once you understand your attachment style, you can begin to reshape it. Awareness is the first step towards security. When you notice your triggers, the moments you feel needy or distant, you gain power to respond consciously instead of reacting automatically. Every relationship, whether personal or professional, rises and falls on communication. But true communication is not just talking, it's understanding. It's the ability to express your truth clearly and listen without defense. Secure relationships aren't built by finding the right person. They're built by becoming emotionally aware and balanced within yourself. Communication, the bridge between minds. For example, instead of saying, "You're overreacting," try, "It sounds like this situation really frustrated you. Can you tell me more?" That small shift builds connection instead of conflict. Many people listen to respond rather than to understand. They wait for their turn to speak, instead of truly absorbing what's being said. This creates distance, even in close relationships. The skill of active listening changes that. It means giving full attention, mirroring the other person's emotion, and asking clarifying questions instead of jumping to conclusions. Similarly, when expressing yourself, use I statements instead of you statements. Saying "I feel hurt" when plans change suddenly invites understanding, while "you always cancel on me" invites defensiveness. The goal of communication is not to win an argument, but to build a bridge of trust. At the center of every meaningful relationship lies empathy, the ability to feel what another person feels. Empathy doesn't mean fixing people's problems or agreeing with everything they say. It means acknowledging their emotions as valid. Empathy, the heart of connection. Psychologists describe 3 kinds of empathy. Cognitive empathy, understanding what someone else is feeling. Compassionate empathy, combining both understanding and a genuine desire to help. Emotional empathy, feeling their emotions with them. When you practice empathy, you create psychological safety, a space where others feel seen, accepted, and safe to be themselves. In that space, relationships deepen naturally. Conflict, the hidden opportunity. But empathy isn't just for others. You must also extend it to yourself. Self-empathy, recognizing your own emotions without judgment, is what allows you to stay calm and kind when others aren't. You can't pour compassion from an empty cup. Most people fear conflict, but psychology shows that healthy conflict is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of depth. Conflict often arises not because people disagree, but because they don't feel heard or respected. When handled with maturity, conflict can strengthen connection. The key is focusing on resolution, not victory. In disagreement, shift your mindset from me versus you to us versus the problem. Ask, "How can we fix this together?" instead of "Who sits right?" Also, learn to pause before reacting. The moment you feel anger rising, take a breath. When you're emotionally charged, your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, shuts down, and the amygdala, the emotional center, takes over. Waiting just a few seconds allows logic to return, preventing words you can't take back. Love without boundaries becomes dependence. Generosity without boundaries becomes exhaustion. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. They're doors that show others how to respect you. Remember, arguments are not won by volume, but by understanding. The goal is connection, not conquest. Boundaries, the framework of healthy relationships. A healthy boundary says, "I care about you, but I also care about myself." It means knowing where you end and others begin, recognizing that you're responsible for your emotions and they're responsible for theirs. Boundaries are most effective when they are clear, consistent, and calm. You don't have to justify them. You just have to communicate them. For example, "I need some time to rest before we talk about this," is healthier than withdrawing silently or exploding in frustration. Setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable, especially if you fear rejection. But the truth is, Boundaries don't push people away. They attract the right ones. The people who respect your limits are the ones who truly belong in your life. In psychology, trust develops through reliability plus empathy plus integrity. Trust is the foundation upon which every relationship is built, and once broken, it's hard to rebuild. Yet, trust isn't something given all at once. It's something built through consistency. Trust, the invisible currency. Reliability means doing what you say you'll do. Integrity means aligning your words with your actions. Empathy means considering others' feelings. Every small moment, showing up on time, keeping a promise, listening with patience, is a brick in the foundation of trust. Over time, those bricks build something solid and safe. If trust has been broken, rebuilding it takes honesty and time. The person who broke it must acknowledge the harm without excuses, and the person who was hurt must decide, over time, if the relationship still serves growth. Trust can't be demanded, it must be earned, slowly, consistently, and truthfully. The mirror effect. Relationships as reflections. Perhaps the most profound psychological truth about relationships is that they act as mirrors. The people who challenge you the most often reveal parts of yourself you haven't healed yet. The partner who makes you feel unseen may be reflecting your own fear of invisibility. The friend who criticizes you harshly may be showing how harshly you treat yourself. Instead of asking, "Why are they like this?" ask, "What is this teaching me about me?" Every interaction is a chance to grow, a mirror showing you where you're still learning to love, forgive, and understand. Connection in the modern world. Psychologists describe loneliness not as the absence of people, but as the absence of connection. You can be surrounded by others and still feel unseen. Real connection requires presence, undistracted attention, honest conversation, and vulnerability. In a world driven by screens, likes, and quick messages, genuine connection has become rare. Technology has made communication instant but not necessarily meaningful. Many people feel more connected digitally yet lonelier emotionally. Try this. The next time you speak to someone, put away distractions. Look at them. Listen. Ask deeper questions. Connection thrives not in noise, but in attention. Relationships are not perfect. They're practice. They're where we learn patience, communication, empathy, and forgiveness. Every bond teaches us something about love and about ourselves. Because in the end, relationships are not about finding someone to fill your emptiness. They're about finding someone to share your fullness with. To build better relationships, start from the inside out. Heal your insecurities, communicate with honesty, respect your boundaries, and nurture your empathy. When you understand yourself, you stop seeking completion in others and start sharing wholeness instead. When you know who you are, love becomes less about possession and more about partnership, less about needing, more about giving, less about fear and more about freedom. And at its core is the psychology of every lasting connection. Two whole people growing side by side, becoming better together. Chapter 10. Becoming the better you. The journey begins with awareness. You can't change what you don't understand. Every thought, every reaction, every emotion offers information. Instead of judging yourself, start observing. When you feel angry, anxious, or stuck, pause and ask, what is this really about? Most of the time, what looks like weakness is just unacknowledged pain or unmet need. Awareness turns reactivity into reflection. It's the moment when change becomes possible. Every chapter, up to this point, has been a piece of the same puzzle. Your mind. You've learned how thoughts shape emotions, how beliefs build your reality, how habits create identity, and how perspective, emotion, and connection form the foundation of who you become. Now it all comes together here, in the practice of becoming the better you. Becoming better isn't about perfection. It's not about chasing an ideal version of yourself that never makes mistakes or feels fear. It's about growth, about becoming more conscious, more compassionate, and more in control of your own mind. The process is not about adding something new to who you are. It's about peeling away what no longer serves you and letting your true potential emerge. Once you're aware, the next step is responsibility. Responsibility doesn't mean blame. It means ownership. It means recognizing that your happiness, peace, and success depend not on what happens to you, but on how you respond. You can't always control the external world, but you can always choose your internal one. That choice, repeated daily, shapes your destiny. This is where the real work of self-growth happens. In the small, consistent decisions, the decision to pause before reacting, the decision to forgive instead of resent, the decision to try again after failing, the decision to treat yourself kindly when your inner critic gets loud. These choices may seem small, but they are the bricks that build your future self. Rewriting the inner story. Remember, your mind believes what you tell it most often. Speak to yourself with the same compassion you'd offer a close friend. You don't grow through self-criticism. You grow through self-acceptance. Your life always moves in the direction of your strongest beliefs. The good news is, beliefs are flexible. They can evolve. Start listening to your inner dialogue. When you catch yourself saying something limiting, ask, is this a fact or a habit? Replace the old voice of doubt with one of encouragement. You don't need to believe it fully at first. Repetition will make it real. Over time, your brain adjusts to the new narrative, and your confidence follows. Every person carries an internal story, a quiet narrative about who they are and what they deserve. That story shapes every decision. If your story says, "I'm not good enough," you'll unconsciously sabotage opportunities. If it says, "I'm unlucky," you'll overlook blessings. But if you rewrite that story into "I'm learning, I'm capable, I'm growing," everything changes. Growth doesn't happen through grand transformations. It happens through repetition. Small daily actions that seem insignificant in the moment, but compound over time. You can't meditate once and become calm. You can't read one book and become wise. But if you do small things consistently, your brain and behavior begin to change on a deeper level. The power of consistency. Consistency isn't about never failing. It's about returning every time you do. Success belongs not to those who never fall, but to those who rise again with awareness. Every stumble is a signal that you're trying, that you're learning, that you care enough to improve. The role of mindset. To stay consistent, focus on systems, not goals. Goals are results. Systems are processes. Goals say, "I want to lose weight." Systems say, "I'll walk every day." Goals say, "I want to write a book." Systems say, "I'll write for 15 minutes every morning." Systems are habits in motion. They keep you growing, even when motivation fades. At the heart of becoming a better you lies your mindset, the lens through which you see yourself and your potential. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset reveals that people who believe their abilities can improve through effort are far more resilient and successful than those who see their abilities as fixed. A better you isn't built by avoiding failure. It's built by learning from it. Failure isn't evidence that you're unworthy. It's proof that you're trying something new. The greatest minds in history were not those who never failed, but those who refused to stop learning. Emotional mastery. A fixed mindset says, I can't do this. A growth mindset says, I can't do this yet. That one word yet turns defeat into development. It keeps you curious instead of hopeless. Every time you choose curiosity over self-judgment, you strengthen the mental muscles of resilience. A truly better version of yourself isn't someone who never feels fear, sadness, or anger. It's someone who learns to navigate those emotions wisely. Emotional mastery means you don't let feelings control your actions. You listen to them, learn from them, and let them pass without self-blame. When anxiety whispers, you can't handle this, answer with, I've handled difficult things before, and I'll handle this too. When anger rises, pause before reacting, and ask, what boundary is being crossed? When sadness appears, don't hide from it. Let it remind you of what matters. Emotional awareness transforms chaos into clarity. Self-discipline and freedom. Connection and compassion. Many people think discipline is restriction, but in reality, it's liberation. Self-discipline isn't about denying pleasure. It's about directing it. It's the ability to do what matters, even when you don't feel like it. Motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you going. Discipline is built through trust in yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you build self-respect. And when you trust yourself, you no longer need constant motivation. You simply follow through because that's who you are. Giving kindness, listening deeply, offering support. These are the habits that make your world better and in turn make you better. We grow most through relationships, through understanding others, and through giving what we once needed ourselves. No version of a better you exists in isolation. Growth isn't just about personal success. It's about connection. How you treat others reflects the strength of your inner world. Compassion is not weakness, it's wisdom. When you understand that everyone is fighting battles you can't see, judgment softens. Purpose and meaning. Purpose turns effort into fulfillment. When you live with meaning, even struggle becomes sacred. It's no longer just pain, it's progress. At some point, growth becomes less about achievement and more about purpose. Psychology shows that people with a strong sense of meaning experience greater happiness, resilience, and health. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It can be simple, raising a family with love, helping others learn, creating beauty, or simply making your corner of the world kinder. Ask yourself, what matters to me most? What do I want to give, not just get? The practice of becoming the better you is not a destination. It's a lifelong practice. There's no finish line where you arrive and say, now I'm done. Growth is cyclical. You'll rise, fall, learn, unlearn, and begin again. Each time wiser, kinder, and more grounded. Some days you'll feel inspired. Other days you'll feel lost. That's normal. The path to self-growth isn't a straight line. It's a spiral, always returning to familiar lessons, but each time at a deeper level. So as this journey closes, remember, what matters most is that you keep walking, keep observing your thoughts, refining your beliefs, and nurturing your peace. Keep choosing awareness over autopilot, love over fear, and progress over perfection. Because becoming the better you isn't about changing who you are. It's about returning to who you've always been, beneath the noise, capable, resilient, and deeply human. Every new thought you choose, every habit you build, every act of kindness you give, they all become part of the better you. You are not defined by your past, your mistakes, or your fears. You are defined by your willingness to grow, to learn, and to begin again. Growth doesn't happen in giant leaps. It happens in quiet, consistent moments when you decide one more time to show up as your best self. And it starts with one powerful choice: the decision to keep becoming. That's not just psychology, that's transformation in motion. As this audiobook comes to an end, take a moment to breathe and reflect. You've explored the vast landscape of your own mind, the thoughts that shape your emotions, the beliefs that define your identity, the habits that guide your behavior, and the connections that give your life meaning. You've seen how the science of psychology isn't just theory, it's a mirror showing you how powerful your inner world truly is. The purpose of Everyday Psychology for a Better You was never to fill your head with information. It was to awaken awareness, because awareness is the seed of all change. When you start observing yourself with curiosity instead of criticism, your entire life begins to shift. You now know that your thoughts are not facts, they're choices. Your emotions are not enemies, they're messages. Your habits are not prisons, they're patterns that can be redesigned. And your relationships are not accidents, they are reflections, inviting you to grow. Becoming better isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you are when fear, doubt, and old stories fall away. It's about returning to your natural state of clarity, courage, and compassion. You don't have to force transformation. You simply have to stay awake to it.